On today's podcast, I have four-time Mr. Olympia Jay Cutler on. And let me tell you, this was one of my favorite episodes of the podcast because I got to pick his brain about nutrition and bodybuilding and just things that I've been wondering for my own health. But along with that, we talked about what kind of discipline and consistency it takes to become a four-time champ and to dominate an industry for a decade. It is really cool to hear just the amount of discipline he had and just everything that he used from that career to transition into business after the fact. We go over in depth how he was one of the first ever, actually he was the pioneer of what bodybuilders can do to make money and just all the things he started since then with supplements, with training programs, and how now he's transitioning with social media and using that business. So it's a really great episode for all aspects if you're trying to increase your health and get better at that, as well as just some business principles and disciplines that you're going to like. So with all that being said, let's jump into the podcast. Are you looking to grow your real estate investing business? My company, Future Flipper, can help. We've taught hundreds of people all over the country how to flip, wholesale, and buy rental properties. And it doesn't matter where you're at in your investing journey. Whether you're trying to get your first deal or scale your company, Future Flipper can help. We have courses, coaching, and events for all levels of investors. So if you want to take the next step, go to futureflipper.com and book a free consultation to see how we can best help you. Once again, that's futureflipper.com. If you've ever wanted to invest with me on my real estate deals, it's now possible. At Pineda Capital, we're purchasing value-add real estate all across the country. This includes multifamily, commercial, and land development. The best part is, with my network, social media presence, and marketing strategies, we're able to get the very best deals that others don't have access to. You can join in with me on those deals if you're an accredited investor. If you want to learn more, head over to pinedacapital.com to see our current opportunities. Once again, that's pinedacapital.com. Welcome to the Ryan Pineda Show, where our mission is to invest.
I only expect to make money in things that I understand.
Innovate.
It's about believing in the future and thinking that the future will be better than the past.
And inspire. I am much more likely to hit my goal just due to putting it out there.
You now rocking with the best.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Ryan Pineda Show. Today, I've got a four-time Mr. Olympia. This man has lifted a lot of weights, started a lot of businesses. In fact, he was also flipping houses, which we'll get into. But I got none other than Jay Cutler. What up, man?
Hey, man, it's good to be on, man. I appreciate reaching out.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny how we got connected. You were trying to buy the watch I bought.
I think that was actually kind of a joke.
Yeah.
It was like we were trying to make you a little nervous because I was in California, and of course, I think you were in Vegas at the time, right?
Yeah. So I was in Vegas, and Gabe, who is both of our watch dealer. I've done videos with him before, but he sends me a FaceTime. He's like, "Hey, I got Jay Cutler with me." Yeah. He says he wants to buy your watch, and I was like, "Dude, you know I'm coming next week to pick it up." But you ended up getting something else.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at some Rolexes there, and always great deals. Happy Jewelers, shout out to them, and watches are very hot right now.
Crazy.
People are flipping. I know a lot of people actually flipping watches,
Dude.
Just buying and selling and searching. I think I just read somewhere actually today that watches are up 20 to 30% over retail.
It's crazy. I mean, I paid over retail just to get that, and I got a good deal. Gabe hooked me up.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's a beautiful piece.
It is, but
I was looking forward to seeing it today on your wrist.
Dude, the reason it's not on my wrist, guys, is I broke it. I dropped it on the floor, and now it's back at AP being fixed. And I don't know what it's going to cost me, but
you'll have it back, and it's a rare piece. So
it is. I love that piece. But man, for people who don't know who you are, man, give them a quick rundown.
Yeah, so you mentioned four-time Mr. Olympia. I mean, that's one of my titles. I'm also, a 30-year veteran of bodybuilding. I started at the age of 18. I came out of Massachusetts. I reside here in Las Vegas, and I had quite a bodybuilding journey. It was a dream since I was 12 years old to actually build a body. I grew up in concrete, my family business, construction. And I'm the youngest of 7 kids. And no one else in my family lifted weights, but at 18, I graduated high school. I was heading off to college in the fall to pursue a degree in criminal justice. I wanted to be a police officer. Kind of. I actually had the option to take over the family business, but I wanted to go to school, and I joined the local Gold's Gym on August 3rd, 1991, and started my journey on becoming, someone that was in shape. I was a football player, track athlete in high school, very, very athletic, agile, and I kind of joined the gym, and I saw a lot of progress right away, and that's really what led me into bodybuilding competitions, and I became the best teenager in the country at 19, turned professional at 22. Joe Weider, who was the father of bodybuilding, who mentored Schwarzenegger, took me under his wing and moved me to California when I was 25, and I started pursuing the dream of becoming the best bodybuilder on the planet at that age. And I finished, the Olympia was actually here at Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas in 99. And next thing you know, I was, battling some of the greats to win the title, and I won it 4 times.
That's crazy. So at 18, you start lifting weights, really. I mean, you're already athletic, but, and then by 19, you're like, I want to do this as a career. How did that happen?
Yeah, progression and when you watch yourself transform in the gym, that really gave me confidence. And I think when people come up to you and they say, hey, you look really great, I had the bigger arms, and, I was strong in the gym. I remember joining the gym and watching everyone work out, because, what people don't realize today, people listening or watching this, is that we didn't have social media, so we only had magazines. And it was very rare that bodybuilding was on television. It was a show called American Muscle Magazine on like ESPN2 or something. And I was able to watch like what a competition was. But, I picked up books, and I would make those workouts I read in the books come alive. I'd shop at the local GNC, and they had only really bodybuilding books there. This is before Barnes and Nobles and all that, which of course now we don't even see those places anymore, right?
Yeah.
Everything's online. But that's really, what the progression is what kept me motivated. And, here I am, like you said, at 19, I competed at Teen Nationals, won that, best teenager in the country. And I was kind of nervous to get on stage, to be honest. And I was offered a free gym membership when I was 18 to actually compete in my first bodybuilding show. I competed about 6 months after I started training, because I had developed such a great body. Not that I graduated high school with as a skinny guy, right?
Right.
I was actually pretty muscular, and man, the rest is, it just kind of laid itself out as like, this is what I wanted to do.
Yeah. How much did you weigh going into it, like after high school?
I was 200 when I graduated high school, and I was relatively lean.
Yeah.
So you can imagine at 5'9", that was still pretty stocky. I mean, as
That's
you see,
super stock. I'm 5'10", 180.
Yeah. So I mean, you see, even now, like being retired for, 8 years, I'm still 230. I'm pretty naturally stocky, and of course I lift weights, but I didn't really lift weights when I was in high school. I just played football, and I told you I did the concrete work, and I think that's really what developed my body a lot. My brothers are still in concrete. We do foundation work.
Right. That's cool. So you think a lot of your strength was from doing all that work?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And the dedication. Like, I was up before school, after school, school vacations, weekends. Like, I worked. It was a family business, so there was no clock punching, like we work X amount of hours, right? It was just, we had to, work around the clock, and that's really, what gave me, kind of the mindset.
Yeah, there's a job to be done, however long it takes.
Yeah.
We're just going to finish it. So you moved to Cali. You said you're 25 years old competing against these guys. Was that when you won your first Mr. Olympia?
No, I actually was second to last in my first at 25, and it was here in Las Vegas.
How was that, going through that?
It was
mentally?
devastating. It was devastating because I had won everything pretty much leading up to that. And for me to, face guys that were a lot better than me and finish almost, I was actually 15 out of 16 guys. It was heart-wrenching. But you always, I look at some of the greats, like the guy that was winning at the time, his name was Ronnie Coleman, who was like the guy I went back and forth with for a lot of years. He was last in his first one. And you're not always great coming out of the gate, especially as you transform. So I kind of had to take a step back. and had to regroup. And it's funny because that was 99. I prepared for 2000 and I finished 8th. So I split the pack, right? And then 2001, I was 2nd. And then 2002, I sat out that year. I won other contests. And then 03, 4, and 5, I was 2nd. And then I won my first in 2006. And then 2007 again. And then I lost in 2008. I got 2nd. Then I came back in 09 and 10 and won the title again. And then I lost it in 11. And then I stepped away for 2 years and then came back and finished 6th. And that was the end of my career. So I was really, I was very consistent, like for over 10 years. But it took me a minute. Yeah, it took me a minute to get there. And, but I was doing the business as a bodybuilder. And a lot of people don't realize that it can be really lucrative because there's endorsement deals, there's guest appearances, there's mail order. I started jaycutler.com, my website, back in 2000. And even prior to that, I was doing like mail order through a magazine. So I had a P.O. box in the magazine, and I was selling a T-shirt with my image on it, or selling 8x10 photos or posters.
Right.
So I came up with merchandising early, and I think I was kind of the pioneer. I started launching DVDs prior to social media. I'd have like 7 hours of training in like my lifestyle. And I'd show like my cars and my dogs and like whatever else.
Dude, you were doing what's popular now 20 years ago.
Yeah. And people would sit in front of a TV and they'd watch me train for 7 hours. And they would just study it. And they'd study how I took plates on and off, how I prepped my food. When I went to Costco, which actually on YouTube is one of the biggest, one of my largest views video, is like, what does Jay Cutler shop for at Costco? Buying the meat. And, I buy in bulk. I mentioned to you a little bit, we'll talk about the diet, but it was wild.
That's crazy. I'm just kind of blown away that you had the foresight to do those things because, back in 2000, how many people were buying their name.com? I mean, I bought ryanpineda.com back in like 2017. And I was like, I think I might need it down the road. And I bought it for $900. And then I'm like, dang, thankfully I bought it. But for you to like in 2000 say, I need to start jaycutler.com and sell products on here.
Yeah.
And then you see like the education space. I sell courses and other things. And you're like, I'm going to sell a DVD course.
Well, it was kind of one of those things where you remember I was doing the mail order. So I said, okay, how can I pivot to something that's more in front of people? And the internet craze really, like, I remember doing dial-up in like 1998, like AOL, it would do the dial-up and I'd have emails. So my handwritten letters or my typewriter letters that I would write to the fans through my P.O. box transitioned to emails. Mm-hmm. And then I was able to contact people and say, hey, this is what I have for sale. And then communicate. And I had like pen pals, people. I would spend hours a day writing to people. And then eventually, when I had the .com, then I could actually highlight all these things on it. And that gave me a huge advantage because, of course, Jay Cutler, there was no football player yet. He didn't come on till later. And Jay Cutler was available, and I just started merchandising through that. And I was early launcher of these DVDs. Like, that's where people got a lot of the information. And I would, for example, it would cost me, I've had a guy that would film it. And what we would do is we would split a bit of the profit. He had distribution in like Asia, and I would allow him to have that distribution, but I would basically say, okay, I'm just going to pay the cost of what it is for a DVD. So it was like $2. And he would basically, I would give him some rights to sell to those foreign places. Mm-hmm. And I would sell it for $40.
Yeah.
So I would sell $250,000 on the first day of release on a DVD.
It's crazy. You're like,
I had every person I knew in my home packing DVDs.
You were the distribution of all of it.
I would pack and ship them through U.S. Postal, and I would handwrite the labels.
Wow.
I would handwrite the labels to every customer, and it was worldwide.
That's
so
nuts.
I literally had every friend, girlfriend, buddy, next door neighbor over there packing and writing out labels and shipping these DVDs. And I would do it every year. I would do a release every year, and I would sell them, and I still sell them today. They're still on my website, and I still sell DVDs, even though most of them are ripped and they're on YouTube for free.
Yeah.
I still sell them because they still want the hard copy.
But you're not handwriting the labels anymore.
No. I've advanced. So.
You've evolved from there.
Yeah.
So you develop your fame after, becoming Mr. Olympia and along the way, and you start getting endorsement deals. Like, did you think that was something that was going to happen so quickly? Or because you were telling me pre-show that the way that you did endorsements was so different than anyone else. Like, you were like doing it so much higher than everyone. Mm-hmm. Like, how did that happen?
I think my reputation, I think, I was always in shape, and, I was always making myself available. Like, when I went to events, I'd always put effort towards people to really give them the time and the attention. And that goes a long way with people when you're really real with people. And that really comes from like the background, coming from Massachusetts and growing up in like, that large family. And, that's one thing about me is like, if you knew me when I was 17 and you know me now, it's pretty much the same person, right? So I think, I was able to, because I was so successful also, that I was able to demand a higher value than most people. But at the same time, I wasn't also sitting back and waiting for these things to come to me. I remember getting on the internet and saying, okay, what outlets do I utilize to be who I am? So if I'm like looking for tanning, hair removal, hair gels, of course, weight equipment, weight belts and gloves and all this stuff, I would sit there and I would look through and say, okay, I utilize all these things on a daily basis. Let me reach out to some popular companies. I would search it, Google it, and say, hey, I think at the time, I don't even think I was a Mr. Olympia. I was an Arnold Classic champ. I won Schwarzenegger's show 3 times. And I would say, I'm this person, da-da-da-da-da. And you didn't have Instagram and stuff, so it wasn't like, hey, check out my Instagram. Yeah. It was like, here's my website, jaycutler.com. It had all my bio on there and everything. And then, of course, there was other websites that had information about me. This is who I am. And most of the time, people would write me back and say, hey, we'd love to work with you, or I currently use the product. So that's one thing about me is, like, I didn't just say, okay, how can I make money with this thing? It was actually something that I actually used to on a daily basis. So, and then it became like food items or whatever else. I mean, I did it all, and I tried to fulfill my duties. And it's even like today, like, people that endorse things. I mean, you have to be active on your social media. You have to be someone of influence, right?
Yep.
And I think that's what really gave me that opportunity.
Yeah. So you do the endorsements, and I think too, one thing I've even learned is like, not everyone just comes to you wanting you to do stuff. Like, you were proactive, like, hey, I use your product. Mm-hmm. I think we can mutually benefit from this. Are you interested? And you did it. Mm-hmm. And it says a lot about why you were able to do so much different, like so many things different than what the rest of the bodybuilding community was doing. So as far as like, the business side of it, we could talk about even more of what you're doing today, but on the competing side of things, like, how did you like stay so consistent for 10 years, finishing in the top 2 almost every year?
For me, it's a common question that people ask. And I mentioned to you earlier, like, consistency is key to everything, right? So if you asked me how structured my life was, like, I wasn't a social person. I pretty much locked myself indoors, and I trained twice a day, whether it was pre-contest or off-season. I literally prepped my meal like as I ate, and I would eat 6 or 7 meals a day, and everything was fresh because I didn't believe in microwaving food or reheating food. So today you have meal prep companies, right?
Right.
I mean, I'm actually involved in one, but I prepped everything fresh, and I would weigh everything, and I would, do my business in between each meal, but I kept myself at home. I restricted travel when I needed to make progress. I did have my endorsement deals that, would pull me on some of the weekends here and there. But when I trained for a competition, I cut all travel 16 weeks out. And I think for me, like that, I call it Boxy Lifestyle. I lived in a box, meaning like it was like, okay, kitchen, gym, sleep, rest, and that was it. I had a circle, it was like a bubble. So the consistency with that, it was always progression in my life. So if I never missed a meal, never missed a workout, every workout was thought about. Each day I knew exactly when I went in the gym and when I was going to train, what body part I was going to do, what exercises, how many repetitions. I went through it over and over in my head, and I knew exactly what to do. And that's what made me great at what I did, because I was just so dedicated. And we didn't have social media, and I think that social media throws a lot of people off now, because you watch people and they're in the gym working out, they're filming their workouts or this and that. Like, even when the guy came and filmed my DVDs, I said, listen, number one rule, do not ask me a question, do not talk to me. And if you go back and you watch these videos, I didn't say one thing. I just trained. And then, of course, when you came to my house, I would open up and talk a little bit. But if I trained with someone back in that era, I remember I would get off a phone call on the way to the gym or whatever, and I'd say, listen, my phone's going to be in my car. I never took a phone in the gym, and anyone that trained with me weren't allowed to carry a cell phone, because I couldn't even have a phone ring because it would annoy me so much. And that's how you can tell the intensity of what I did. That's how I treated it. It was a job. I was trying to be the best at it and set the standard, and that's pretty much what I did.
Well, I think what stuck out to me from that story is that you were looking at every little edge. Like, there are some pieces where people be like, that's a bit extreme, but that's the difference between being one or two, the little edge. You're like, okay, cell phone, I don't want any distraction. If I get one less rep or one rep that's not as good, that could dictate whether I win. With microwaving food, this might be messing up the calories or however it is. Like, I don't want to risk it,
You are an athlete. You know that there's always someone that's better than you, genetic-wise.
Yep.
Okay? But work ethic means a lot, right? So I felt, okay, I'm not the most genetically gifted guy. I did have great genetics. But I still had to work my ass off to do what I did. And that's why I did not leave anything unturned in order to get to that one goal. And as you see, if you look at my history, let's take only the Olympia. I mean, 15th, 8th, second, first, all the way through. So you see what the pattern did it came up from basically last to first place. And that doesn't come from, I wasn't born into it of like, oh, the guy walks in the show and he's just the greatest at the time, right? You have to work your ass off to get there.
Yeah. So as far as, your daily routine, you talked about how it's like a hamster wheel, like just every day. You never missed a meal. Yeah. You never missed anything. And I tell that to people all the time, whether in business or sports or real estate. It's like, dude, the best athletes, the best businessmen are the ones who do the same thing over and over. They don't miss a beat. And I've seen that, whether it's trying to get real estate deals where it's like, dude, you got to make the calls. It gets boring. It's the same thing every day, but you got to make the calls and talk to the sellers. With YouTube, it's like, dude, you got to put out a video every day. How bad do you want to be a YouTuber? Well, you only put out one video this week. You ain't going to make it. Your competition is doing it like clockwork. And same thing with athletes, man. I watch these baseball players, some of the best that you've seen, man, and you just watch them prepare for a game, and it's consistent. Nothing ever changes. They know what they eat. They eat it at the right time. They go play. They got their recovery after the game. They get their sleep. They wake up. They do it again for 162 games. It's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I did it. From the age of 18, I told you I retired at 40. But to this day, a lot of that structure has fallen into now my life and business. And it's fallen into, if you said to me, Jay, what is your day? I mean, you just asked this question, and I don't think I even answered it. But I literally get up every day, and it's the same thing. I check, okay, what texts come in, and then I get on my email, and I look at, okay, I browse through to see if there's anything important, because I run a business from the East Coast, So I'm about 3 hours, behind. So I make sure that nothing is pending, and I drink my glass of water, 2 glasses of water, first thing I do when I wake up, and I take a little bit of a pick-me-up, my pre-workout a little bit, and I get on the step mill for 30 minutes, and I go through my day of what I have to do, what I have to conquer. Sometimes I'll look at social media, just to see what's kind of happening, but I'm not one of these guys that sits on the phone. I finish with that, cook the same breakfast I had for the past 20 years.
What's the breakfast?
So I drink the egg whites now. So I mentioned I do about 30 egg whites, but I drink
30 egg whites today still.
No.
Oh,
I drink
you used to.
drink 2 cups of egg whites.
Okay.
I blend it in a blender with ice and a little bit of my amino acids. I have 2 whole eggs. I have 2 slices of Ezekiel bread. I have 1 cup of cottage cheese, and I have a bowl of grits. And I have sometimes a cup of coffee or a cup of tea.
What are the macros on that?
I mean, I eat probably 100 grams of protein, and I have about probably 200 grams of carbs.
So on the drinking the egg whites, do you just do that because it's easier to down them?
It is, instead of cooking, because if you cook 2 cups of egg whites mixed with I'd have 2 whole eggs every morning. It's a pretty good portion of, and I told you, when I did the 30 egg whites, man, that plate was...
I can't believe
And
you ate 30 egg whites.
I used to crack all the eggs. So I would crack 30 eggs, and I would buy 30 dozen eggs at a time from a local farm stand. So my whole refrigerator, people would come over. I remember when I was in college, my friends would come over and be like, "Hey man, you got any beers in the?" And they open the fridge and it's like all eggs. It's all eggs in there. Because I was eating, some of my diets, I'm not going to lie, I was eating over 100 eggs a day, 100 egg whites.
Oh my God.
And I was cracking this. So I'd have bowls in my fridge and I would crack the eggs. And, you laugh at that, but I would buy a whole cow at a time. I had a local butcher, and I would have a whole cow. I'd walk in the butcher shop, and my cow would be hanging. And I'd say, this is hamburg, this is steaks, this and that. And I would buy a whole cow. And then they'd have packs of chicken. You go to a restaurant, back of a restaurant, they have packs of chicken. I'd buy 140 pounds of chicken at a time. So I had 2 freezers in my garage. Yeah. And one was the beef freezer and one was the chicken freezer. And then I had the eggs in I was a machine. All I did was eat, and I would take out 5 pounds of meat between the 2 a day. So I'd take out 2.5 pounds. I would usually break it down into 1 pound Ziploc bags. So anytime I brought the meat home, it was like a whole chore to have us all breaking the meat down so it would be in bags so I could thaw stuff out on a daily basis. And I would eat 5 pounds of meat a day, plus the eggs.
How many grams of protein is this a day?
I was eating about 300-400 grams on a very consistent basis.
Dang, that is insane. Yeah. How many calories a day, were you eating?
I never really counted the calories, although I figured it was around between probably 6,000 to 7,000.
Wow, that's it.
Because I'd eat a lot of carbohydrates too. Remember, I was trying to keep the fats low. So, when you talk carbs and protein, carbs and protein each have 4 calories per gram, where, fat has 9 calories per gram. So that's why, I tried not to add any fat to my diet. So that's the one thing, that I was different from a lot of bodybuilders, is I didn't actually take in fat, extra essential fats and all that through my diet protocols. And even when I dieted for competitions, I'd switch to white fish, which was very low in fat. And that's why, if I put someone on a diet protocol, I try to keep the fat calories lower. So I'm not someone, if you say, hey, I want to be on a program and I want to snack, and I would give them cashews or nuts. I don't necessarily do that. I try to keep the actual fat's fat. Okay, I understand there's good and bad fat, certain olive oils, whatever else. I tried to keep that to a minimal. So, because then it didn't halt my metabolism, because when you take in more fat calories, it's going to slow your metabolism a little bit.
Really?
So when you have a lower fat diet, you can eat more like the machine, because I had to get in my 6 or 7 meals a day. That was the key every single day. So that was routine.
And I assume you were eating lean beef then.
Lean beef. I was getting it from a butcher shop.
Yeah. You weren't eating the Wagyu.
No, we didn't even have that. That didn't exist. So it was I was getting anything at a grocery store is never as great as a butcher shop. And I was in the middle of cow country. I was in Massachusetts, rural area, so I would buy my cow there.
So, you're talking about just purely chicken, eggs, and beef. And you said sometimes you'd go to fish when you were trying to really lean out.
Whitefish, yeah.
Why not, these other things like salmon or pork?
Two are higher in fat.
Yeah.
It's a good fat, but I was a carb eater too.
Do you see any scenario in nutrition where it makes sense to, do lower carbs, high fat, like keto?
I'm not a huge keto. I was a little more stern about that earlier. I think I said it's shit, right? But it's not something that you can do long term, because in the end, like, you're not always going to stay on that keto diet, like eating out or, family functions, whatever else. I think if you can stay consistent with, what we call the zigzag diet, meaning like if you fluctuate calories on certain days from different sources. So like you're doing like a higher, carb days.
Yeah, that's what I'm on right now.
And what happens is, ideally what you want to do, and I want people to pay attention to this, is, like I mentioned, calories from protein and carbs are the same, right? It's 4 calories per gram, right? So what I try to do is, like, if the carbs are higher, the protein goes down. So you still get the same calorie. And then when the carbs come down, the protein goes up. So it shifts, and you kind of eat the same calories, but your body is shifting sources. Mm-hmm. So it kind of tricks your body, because your body knows, the way it functions, a protein from a carbohydrate, right? I mean, how it breaks it down into sugars and everything. And you need glycogen in your muscle, like, especially if you work out. So that's why carbs are so important. Like, that's going to give you your fuel, and it's going to give you your tissue expansion. Like we talk about, there's a lot of fluid in the muscle, but it's also glycogen, which is from your carbohydrates. Yes, protein can convert if you're on a deficit, but ideally your body's going to function from your carbohydrates getting that.
We all know that I love creating passive income through rental properties, but did you know that you can create passive income through owning an e-commerce store? My company, Lunar Ecom, can build and manage a store for you on Amazon or Walmart. We'll handle everything from starting the store, picking the products, and all the day-to-day operations. It's completely passive for you. If you'd like to learn how store owners are making thousands a month in passive income, head over and watch the case study at lunarecom.com. It will explain everything you need to know about the industry and why I'm so excited about it. So to see the case study, head over to lunarecom.com. Most people want to get rich at all costs. They make sacrifices with their family, their health, and their faith, all in the pursuit of money without even realizing it. But what if I told you it doesn't have to be that way? What if you could grow your wealth in all areas of life? Well, it's possible, and that's why I created The Wealthy Way. It's a community of people striving to grow together in all areas. And we have multiple tools for you to use that are completely free. You can get access to the Wealthy Way Planner, where you can set goals and hold yourself accountable on a daily basis. We also have our Wealth Builder Academy, which is over 4 hours of content teaching you how to manage your time, create the right goals, and all the biggest secrets I've used to grow my life, not only in my net worth, but in all aspects. Lastly, we have our Discord community where thousands of wealth builders are all over the world encouraging one another and growing together. And once again, all of this is completely free. There are no upsells, there are no hidden catches. For me, this is a passion project, and I want to build a community of like-minded people. So if you want to start living the wealthy way today, go to wealthyway.com. There you can get all the free resources like the course, planner, and Discord community. So go to wealthyway.com. So are you a believer in like this zigzag changing your diet up because your body gets used to it?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just like, I think the workouts should be, intensity should change. Like, I used to fly athletes in and out to train with me. I never stuck to the same thing. If you said to me, how do you train your calves? Like, I've done every calf routine there is, every day, every other day. That's the most common question, is like, how do I get my calves bigger? Everyone wants bigger calves for some reason.
Really?
Yeah, everybody, because everyone wants to wear shorts and have their calves look
I
bigger.
did not know that was a thing.
So
I've had naturally
you don't care
big
about
calves.
your calves. Okay, so maybe, yeah. So do
But-
people ever tell you, hey, you have nice
Yeah,
calves?
dude, now that you mentioned that, when I was
Yeah.
playing baseball, because I'd always wear my socks up, they're like, dude, you have really nice calves. I'm like, okay. Like,
It's
I
not
don't
something
care.
you think about, right?
No, I never have been like, dude, I don't even do calf workouts.
Yeah. See, I had really big legs. I squatted like 700 at 19. And I remember I was like, I'm like, man, I'm making such great progress. My legs are so big, and my, upper body was getting there. My sister, had to ruin the show. And she says, she says, man, your legs are so big, but your calves are really small. And it destroyed me. And I was like, never again is this going to happen. So I started training my calves like crazy, became one of my best body parts.
So let me ask you this. I've had this belief, just, being around athletes and other people. My belief has always been that bodybuilders have like I don't want to say it like this, but like the worst self-esteem. Like, to me,
Insecurity?
Yeah, insecurity. Like what pushes them to do so much with their body is bred out of insecurity.
I wanted to tell you, I wasn't the kid that got sand kicked in my face at the beach or anything. Like I said, I started at 200, but it's true. A lot of guys that are shorter, a lot of guys that are scrawny, they become bodybuilders because they're insecure about their weight or how they look. I can't ever say that was an issue with me.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I mean, like I said, at 12 years old, I saw a magazine, and this guy, Chris Dickerson, he was a former Mr. Olympia. And I said, man, how does a body look like that? Yeah. And that's what I'm like, and I was flexing when I was like 3 years old. I was always muscular. Like, I was an active kid. And like I mentioned, I did the concrete work. So I had a great body. And in high school, I was always the strongest, fastest kid.
Yeah.
And I was somewhat lean. I was genetically lean. So I think that's really what gave me the drive to become bigger. And then when you go in the gym and you do a few sets for 2 weeks straight, and then all of a sudden your arms gain an inch, or your legs are growing and you're, slowly growing out of your shorts. I mean, I used to wear boxer shorts. I had to cut the sides of my boxers because my legs got so big,
Yeah.
And, that's really what kind of started.
You just loved the progress.
I just loved the progress.
Like,
and I wasn't one to I sat in front of the mirror and I flexed or whatever else, but I'm sure you work out on a daily basis. Like, you probably say, oh, am I getting leaner? Like, you judge how you look and you probably feel good, but I just loved how I felt when I got in the gym and I trained, and it was a great stress reliever for me. Like, I don't know what your daily workouts are for you, but it's a huge stress reliever for me. And I was at a crossroad at 18 to either be in the family business doing concrete or go to school to be a police officer. And bodybuilding, I found bodybuilding. And when I got lost in the weights for that 2 hours, I was training 8 to 10 at night. That's what really gave me the motivation to keep doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, for me, I got into lifting weights mainly for baseball, right? It's just like, hey, this is going to help me with my career. This is what I have to do. And I always wondered, I was like, I wonder what I'm going to be like when I'm done playing. Am I going to keep up this routine and whatever else, right? But as you know, you do it for so long your whole life, you can't stop. Like, this is who I am. And so now today, I have no reason to try and be strong or anything else.
Yeah.
And I still go to the gym every morning. I'm still putting up, I'm just as strong as I was when I played. And I'm always pushing myself because that's just like who I am today. And to your point, the stress relief, it makes me feel good. I get my endorphins. I'm energized. And I honestly believe that, at least in business, we have, whatever, everyone's competing in business. And, you get all these guys who don't take care of their health, right? And so, to me anyways, I look at them, I'm like, dude, you can't compete with me if I'm in shape. Like, you just cannot physically compete with me in terms of how I work compared to how you work. You're just not there. So
it's a structure though, right? So if you feel dominant on all angles, it's going to make you that much better in everything that you do. And that's why, I don't look at myself anymore as a bodybuilder. Like, someone like you may, when you title me as a 4-time Mr. Olympia, I've done so many things now since bodybuilding, and I did so many things while I was bodybuilding. I was like a universal bodybuilder. I did it all. And I always thought about the long game. Okay, what am I going to do after, and how am I going to transition? How am I going to drop the body weight? And I knew that I would continue to work out. Did I think that I would do cardio every morning? No, I didn't, because I didn't necessarily like it when I was 300 pounds. But to me now, cardio is more exciting than weight training to me.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
Because I don't have to think about the weights that I'm doing or the sets. I can literally get on a step mill and get in a zone and really dig into big life choices of business.
That's
and
where you get
relationships.
Your thinking done.
Yeah. it's hard to explain, man. And some of our people probably understand that. And I just get into a zone and I can just like, I can do work.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've come up with some of my best ideas at the gym because, you know, you're sitting in between sets. What are you doing? You're just sitting there thinking. You're like, well, probably you were different. You're thinking about that next set. Like
I'm thinking about how am I going to get 8 or 10 reps out of this.
Yeah.
Like you just mentioned to me something that I caught on to, and you're like, I'm just as strong today as I was. Like I don't give a damn about how much weight I press as long as I look like I can do a certain weight. That was our whole goal. Like bodybuilding is you're posing on stage. No one's asking you how much you bench press or squat.
Right.
I can brag to you about I did X of weights or whatever, but I just wanted to look like that guy.
Right.
So that's really what my whole goal was. It wasn't like you still want to be strong, like you probably meant like a bench press or whatever.
Yep.
Like I don't even get under a bench press anymore. I use dumbbells or whatever else. But it's just that mindset that gives me and sets the tone for the day, right? So when I'm, you know, doing that cardio, and then of course I get a weight session in during the day too. But it's usually towards the middle or end of the day, where you're an early morning trainer. There's no right or wrong time to train. Everyone has different times that they prefer. But I usually train like late afternoon. It works better for me.
Nice. So speaking of that, you know, I mentioned strength was my goal. You know, playing baseball didn't really matter how I looked. All I care about is how far I hit the ball, right? Or how hard I throw it. With Mr. Olympia, like you said, it's your physique, how you look. They don't judge you based on, you know, your strength. What's that, World's Strongest Man?
That's World's Strongest, yeah.
How, in fact, do you even win Mr. Olympia? Like, how are they judging you? Because all these guys are yoked. Like, I've always wondered, I'm like, I don't know. Who
very, very subjective.
Yeah.
But they look at conditioning, structure, muscularity, proportions, how you pose. So ideally, you want to have everything flow. Like, you know, you've seen the guys with the big upper body, small lower portion, right? So ideally, you got to have all those. You know, you could have a great V taper, so the waist has to be small. You know, you try to build this physique and keep the waist as small as possible. But also, they judge us on the conditioning factor. Like, all the muscles have to show. And remember, what you see on a bodybuilding stage is literally like a few hours of conditioning. Like, we deplete water, you know, the last couple days. But the whole diet process to get the body fat low enough to get down to, like, I was down to 3% body fat at, you know, 260 pounds. Jeez. That's really like you're shrink wrapping the muscles. So the muscles just have shredded, like you see striations and you see the cuts. That's what they look for. And how you pose it, how you display it. There's like 7 mandatory poses. So you've seen something like the frontal bicep, the most musculars, you know, you have your side chest, you know, your abs and thighs. Like, you got to have all the poses. And not everyone has that. And there's a few people, like, there's only like 16 guys in the history that ever won the Mr. Olympia. Schwarzenegger's won 7 himself. You know, I won 4. Ronnie Coleman's won 8. Lee Haney's won 8. You know, Phil Heath won 7. So it just, there's a short list. And usually that person is dominant, right? I mentioned I just didn't win it once. I won it 4, and I lost it in the middle and came back to win it. But I was second, you know, 6 times. So there was 2 guys that were dominant. Like, the guy that was beating me won 8 times in a row, and I beat him when he was going for record number 9. So it's very limited on who has all those qualities at that elite level. But yes, as you as a spectator would probably have, unless you really know the judging standards, it's not keen to your eye, okay, this guy is more dominant than this. You know, it comes down to sometimes the smallest little, leanest, you know, lower back or cut thighs or whatever else.
I mean, at any level, that's typically what happens at the top, is just like, it's fractions separating the two.
But it's, you know, I compare it to a pageant, right? So it's not like baseball or football where it's like home runs or touchdowns, right? You know, they're kind of using a point system and you're comparing. So it's kind of, you know, that's not always in agreements. If someone's in the 3rd row, they see something that's different than in the 8th row. Oh. So it's really like, that's why the judges have their seating and they're like a certain distance. And we have to go through our mandatories. And then, of course, the winner's chosen. And then you have basically a year to maintain that title before you challenge again. It's every year here in Las Vegas.
I might have to check it out.
It's every year.
What month is it?
It's going to be in December in the end of this year.
Oh,
it's
so they
usually in
just did it.
September. Yeah, they just did it, but it was in Orlando because of this restrictions.
Oh.
So they moved it the last couple of years just because they were uncertain. But they brought it. It's going to be at Planet Hollywood, like December 17th this year.
Yeah, I'm gonna go check it out. That's cool. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously you did that, the discipline, you know, you were ahead of your time as far as personal branding and products. And now, you know, today you're retired and you're in a kind of a different world. We talked about social media, but now you have supplements, you have these other things. Like, tell me about what it's been like in retirement.
It's been more work. It's been more work because I feel like the mind transition, like, you know, I was a bodybuilder and it was very physical, although I did have to think about what I did a lot. But, you know, the effort of being on point a lot more often because of social media, like I consider myself an influencer.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy at my age to think that. You know, I'm 48 now and it's like, you know, I'm still posting, like this morning I was posting the meals that I was prepping before I came here. And you know, I have my products, like I have a sale this weekend and, you know, I still talk about, hey, when I do my cardio, this is what I do. And this
you still meal prep yourself?
I do. Yeah, I do.
Wow.
So I have a company that I'm actually, I'm involved in, which is called Trifecta. And it's a meal delivery company. It's subscription based. So they have options of meals. So they have either prep meals or they have, a la carte. So I order a la carte meals. So basically I get like 2 pounds of like bison or 2 pounds of chicken breast and 2 pounds of fish. And what I do is I kind of cook my carbohydrates around that. I mostly eat white rice. So I actually prepare my food that way each day. So like I prepped 2 meals prior to coming here because I'm going to go run a couple errands, but I still carry food with me. I eat about 4 meals a day now, nothing like I did before, not even the crazy portions. You know, I eat about 5 ounces of meat now, and instead of 12 or 16.
Yeah, so just normal meals.
Yeah, just normal meals, but it's just every 3 hours I eat.
Okay.
So if I'm suggestive of anyone to eat, it has to be every 2.5 to 3 hours. I feel is like a time frame of when you should eat, and that means an average person should be eating about 4 or 5 portion meals a day.
What do you think about intermittent fasting?
I would have said it was stupid 10 years ago, but I've seen it work well for people. To be a bodybuilder, it's almost an impossible thing to do because, you know, it's hard to cram all your calories in. The body doesn't absorb that like that. Mm-hmm. And, you know, being someone that's think about that. If I was 300 and trying to take in 6,000 calories, you know, I don't know how
5 hours.
Yeah, I don't know how the composition would lie on the body, because ideally what a bodybuilder does, or someone that's trying to be in shape, even someone like yourself, you're trying to eat the perfect amount of calories to maintain a lean physique and perform. Right. So that's why I think the, you know, shorter times between meals work and more consistent meals. Number one, it helps with metabolism. Also, it helps break down the food at a continuous progress, and it gives you consistent energy. If you ever notice, like the person that eats at noon, they start to die out at 4 o'clock if they don't eat. Right. So that's why I think that, you know, you need to take in your consistent every 2.5 to 3 hours, and you can have that energy continuous that way. But intermittent, it's taken a huge, you know, it's a huge place now in fitness. Like a lot of people talk about it. And I think everyone's challenge now is they're trying to lose weight. Most people are like battling.
Most people don't want to get huge. They're just.
No one wants to get huge anymore.
Right.
I mean, I think that era has kind of faded. They just want to be in shape, and not even like super ripped. They just want to be in shape, and they want to be able to fit into clothes and look proper, right? Some people want to perform. I mean, your mentality is a lot different from a normal person because you are an athlete.
Yeah.
So us athletes, they think differently, right? We always think performance. Like, you know, your whole thing is like, I want to be stronger, or, you know, but I want to look lean too, right? So you have to pay attention to that. But I can tell you, like, your diet is the most important thing in your life that you can do, because that's going to play a long-term position of your health too. I mentioned to you, like, the sugar. Everyone eats too much sugar. It's terrible. It causes plaque in the heart. I mean, people don't even realize that. It's almost worse. Like, they think, oh, McDonald's is so bad, or this or that.
Sugar's
worse. The sugar's worse.
So So tell me this, because I'm all about balance and lifestyle. Like I'm all about, I don't want to be disciplined 30 days straight, but I want a cheat day.
Mm-hmm.
And, I want to have red wine. I want to have an old fashioned. Like, and then we were just making fun of me before the show. Like I just pounded a couple of espresso shots, like in coffee and caffeine. So like, are you still just so ultra disciplined today? No, you enjoy it.
Everything in moderation.
Okay.
The problem is Americans, and I hate to, society is like, they just don't know moderation, right? It's like the person that goes to the supermarket and they buy the fat-free thing of like chips or whatever, and they're like, they have to eat the whole bag because they're like, oh, these are fat-free.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where I watched this in spending a ton of time in Europe. Like I watched the portions in Europe compared to like the U.S. portions.
Tiny.
And there's less overweight people there. And listen, they drink wine. A lot of them smoke and this and that. And there's so many things that are so bad, right? But listen, my dad, I just lost my dad. He was 92, but he smoked for 20 years, like 3 packs of cigarettes, and he had no issues from smoking, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
So it's a lot of it, I think, comes down to genetics, but at the same time, like, we just don't know moderation. And I think you can enjoy your red wine. Like I go out to eat, I'm not going to lie. Like I'll have some bread or, I'll drink some alcohol once in a while. And it's not like a daily thing, but you have to have your discipline days. And I'm sure you have your days where you're like, you know what? I'm going to work hard Monday through Friday, but I have a trip away this weekend to do something. You just finished a seminar, right? That you probably didn't eat a lot of food during that weekend, right?
And we went out every night.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, you have those times where that's real life. That's like I stepped out of the professional side. Like I'm still pretty structured. Like today is, whatever day it is, I'm still structured on the meals, but I do allow myself sometimes to
some leeway.
Yeah.
But your advice, from what I'm hearing, as far as all the things we talked about in regards to working out and health and all that, like number one, what I'm hearing is diet is the number one most important thing, far more than any workout you do or anything else. Number two, you're a big fan of high protein, high carb versus, these high fat.
Moderate protein, moderate carb, yeah.
Yeah. And then, number three, like sugar, alcohol, these things, like, you can't be having them all the time, but, in moderation.
Everyone's going to have a piece of cake once in a while or whatever else, but the daily sugars is just, it needs to stop,
Yeah.
It needs to stop.
One thing I've been thinking about is I was so much more disciplined when I was playing with my diet. I didn't eat sugars or, all that, but now my incentive to be, in the best shape is lower because I'm like, oh, I'm not an athlete anymore. Like, I can have cake, I can have alcohol, I can have these things. And for now, I'm 32, and I still stay lean, just kind of like living this lifestyle. But I know as I get older, that won't be the case.
You may always stay lean, though. You may.
You're giving me hope that I can just...
No, I know it. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. And some people just genetically, but remember, you may look great from the outside, but you still have to be aware that, like, what's internally, and that was always my fear, being who I was and eating the amounts of foods and pushing my limits. I always was kind of nervous about that. And I always had my checkups and never really had any health scares in that sense. But as we get older, like, you start to think about those things more,
Yeah.
But I was one of these guys, if you told me at 25, like, listen, man, you're going to win the Mr. Olympia and, you may cut 20 years off your life to do it. I'm like, okay, sign me up. But really? today I look and I say, man, I would never think that way. It's amazing what you think when you're younger.
Right.
Because you're just so like, I wanted the best prize there was of what I did.
Right. Yeah. No, that's crazy, man. I'm for sure going to reevaluate what I eat, because what you just said with externally, it might look great, but internally, like, what's happening with these foods and things. And I for sure have neglected my diet and just relied on genetics. And what's interesting, I guess, for me is I've been plus or minus 5 pounds of 180 for 12 years straight. I've never tried to get my body bigger. and I've never tried to like get super lean. And I don't know if I'm just like listening to my body, because anytime I try to get bigger and eat a lot of food, my body's just like, dude, this does not feel right. And then anytime I try to get super lean, it's like, dude, I have no energy. But then I just stay at 180 and like I feel good and I'm comfortable. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Listen, if you're happy with how you look and, you know, you're performing, you're in a good position. I mean, you got to remember, 90% of people wake up and look in the mirror and they're not happy with what they see.
Right.
So my goal is, you know, I'm always, and I'm one of those people. I still want to be leaner. I want to be more defined in certain areas. And maybe that's just because that's my background, is like being a competitive, you know, bodybuilder. But like you always are driven by something, right? I mean, it's just like your business. Like, you still want to get better at what you do, right?
Right.
You're still, like we talked about, you know, influence and how people do that. People like have their different ways and without arrogance, and, you know, you want to be as real as possible, but you're passionate, right?
Yeah.
Passion is a huge thing in what we do. And I'm passionate about fitness. I'm passionate about the diet. I'm passionate about the training. Like, you know, I don't know training is my drug.
Yeah.
So if I miss training, like if you said, oh, how many days have you missed? Very rarely do I miss.
You just love it.
I love it. But if I miss 2 days because I'm busy doing something, I'm out of my mind.
Yeah.
Like
I
it's,
gotta get in the
yeah,
gym.
I mean, I'm going crazy. So for me, like I mentioned, the consistency with everything. And if you're happy with what you do, like, man, don't change a thing.
Yeah.
Don't change a thing.
Yeah. So you had mentioned that back in the day, you'd have off season, you'd have a year to prepare and do all this stuff. And then you mentioned how social media is kind of like messing with people's minds and all this. And it makes me wonder, especially as a bodybuilder, right? You're on social media every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people are constantly judging your body as whatever, if you're a fitness influencer or whatever you want to call it. So it's like they don't have an off season anymore.
No. Your clothes are always off. And, you know, especially like the younger generation, not so much me. I mean, people want to listen to my voice rather. They've seen there's a million videos, right? You can Google search me and see everything on YouTube.
Right.
So I don't have to, like, you know, you say, oh, you don't have anything to prove. Like, I don't have to prove that I can bench 550 anymore or all that other stuff. They want to hear, okay, what was the mindset? How did you approach this and this and that? And so that's why, like, podcasts are great, right? But, you know, the influencer now, like, you have to be 100% on point and not Photoshop, right? Because now it's like videos. It's not Instagram. You can still Photoshop, like if you're doing hard posts. But when you're on your storylines or you're on your TikToks or you're on your YouTube channel, it's hard to fake it, right?
Right.
So a lot of this is genetics, I still think. Like, someone gets into fitness because they have great genes, but at the same time, like, you have to have a game plan set forward. But it is distracting on everything that you do, because it's hard to say, okay, I'm going to film all my content for the week, because, as you know, Instagram stories mean a lot, right? People want to see minute to minute.
Yep.
They don't want to see like days of breaks or anything like that. So it's just really like, if I was coming up as a bodybuilder in today's way of social media, I don't think I'd be great at it.
Do you even think you would try and compete for Mr. Olympia, or like you'd go the route that these other guys are going, where
I would be a social influencer?
Yeah.
Because there's so much more outreach than being a big bodybuilder.
I had this argument with a guy at the gym yesterday. Not even an argument, but I go, to me, as a normal person, if I was to follow a fitness influencer and potentially buy products from them, I want somebody who has an attainable physique, something that I could strive for. Like, better than me, obviously, but not like Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you're saying is like,
yeah, I mean, hey, I'm me, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I'm a realist about things. And although some people say, hey, if I can take 10% of what Jay Cutler did,
yeah,
that's where I want to be.
Right.
Right. So I think for me, like, I've kind of, like I said, I don't consider myself a bodybuilder. So maybe that's like arrogance or stupidity in me, right? Because now I'm, like I said, I'm not on there with my shirt off, like hitting sets at the gym and you can be like me and take this product, right? It's more like, hey, I did it all. Like, I know what I'm doing because I've taken every supplement there is. I've endorsed a million different products. Things are advanced. I mean, I'm spilling out information to you that you're probably going to sit and kind of like go over in your head in the next 24 hours, and you're going to pick some things that we discussed.
Yep.
Like, it's experience, right? You can't, there's no textbook that can teach this thing. Everyone is individual in what they do. So, like, when I work with people, I don't write the same program for everyone. Like, I take in, okay, what's your injuries? Like, what do you like to do? What foods don't you like? What do you like? Like, you have to set your own thing. So, you know, you just take a little bit of everything, and then you say, okay, well, that's going to work. But yeah, I agree. Like, I just don't know a lot of people that are successful in business and fitness that have their own brand other than in just endorsing it. Right.
Right. 100%. Yeah, I agree with you. Like, it's amazing that, you know, when you were starting, 20 plus years ago, there wasn't like this path for a bodybuilder to make money, right? Today, if you're jacked, you can just get a following, take your shirt off, do some crazy TikToks. You might get famous tomorrow. And I've kind of actually thought about that because I mean, I'm a business guy. So like on one hand, I look at it and I'm like, okay, I got to be professional in what I do. And then on the other hand, I'm like, I wonder what would happen if I just did a bunch of TikTok shirtless talking about business. And I'm not in good enough physique yet, but that would actually give me the reason to take physique seriously and diet and all this, because I'm like, I wonder how much that would increase views. The same message, but in a different presentation. I don't know.
Listen, anyone's capable.
Yeah.
You know what? You have your business ventures today. I'd be curious to see what you have in 5 years. You might get so interested in your fitness. You're talking about your challenges and, we discussed workout. Like, you're almost like you're a fitness, like, enthusiast, like more than anything, right?
Right.
It's a daily, daily you work out, right?
Yep.
You could launch your own supplement thing.
I've thought about that.
I mean, you have the audience, like you have the knowledge. Like we talked about caffeine. We talked about things. You said, I need this, right? So there's certain things that you need. You showed me your macros.
Yeah.
Like there's certain things that you do on a daily basis that, it's just routine. And people are going to say, how do you look like that?
Yeah.
How do you perform like that? How do you wake up every day and do this? How do you have the energy to do this? I take this, I do this. I mean, you told me you use certain products. You take a little bit of like a combination. That's how I launched my brand. I said, okay, I want to take the best of this.
Yeah.
And that's how I did it. And I learned about ingredients and listen, workout products from 5 years ago are different from today.
How do you think the tech has improved?
The ingredients, like the mind, like I mentioned, like my pre-workouts, like it used to be like grind it out, like caffeine and just, but now it's like more brain function, right? And the message that you are able to send through social channels has extremely changed, right? So you can connect a little bit with your audience that you couldn't really do 5 years ago, especially since YouTube has continued to grow, and you can give deeper explanation of what it does, and you can show like transformations on how the physique changes. And like I mentioned, it's not only a product that's going to do that. It's a combination of like the lifestyle and the nutrition and everything else. Like, and that's one thing, like I'm super real about that, is like, there's no magic pill. I wish I could be the one to come up with a pill that would give you all your macros for the day and we don't have to eat, because eating sometimes is a job.
Especially when you eat 30 eggs a day.
Of course. But even to like having to prepare my food, but like you still have to pick and choose the restaurants you eat at, right? So I know for me, like I have a fiance that like she likes to eat at bad food places, like that can't prepare the plain chicken breast and the white rice. So I think really like you have to find like a happy medium, right?
Right.
And that's been like the biggest challenge for me. But I wish I could come up with that one like really product that no one's ever come up with.
It'll probably happen.
Yeah, it probably will.
It's crazy. Just like we were talking about this pre-show, like back in the day, man, the first people to start making supplements were like NO Explode and C4. And, you know, it was just like, it's just speed.
Which is still like the nitrous oxide, still like the pump factor. But I mean, and on Explode, you try to shake it in a shaker, and it would blow up, right?
Yeah.
So now, like,
you're like, this can't be good in my body, dude.
Yeah. So I mean, but the NO is like that's still what causes a lot of the pump, you know. So it was like very simple, but it didn't mix real well. It didn't mix. It kind of had stuff floating on the top, you know. I think there was aminos or something in there, but it was popular. I mean, Ronnie Coleman endorsed it, and I'm not gonna lie. I went out and bought it. I had an endorsement at the time with a competing company.
Yeah. And
I went out and bought it because I'm like, damn, Ronnie Coleman's in all these ads, and I see, you know, I see him train.
Is this
and
his edge?
Yeah, yeah. And I see his veins popping out, and I'm like, man, I got to try this. So here's a guy that, like, I was second best in the world, and I was out there, you know, researching products.
Yeah. No, that's amazing, dude. I'm gonna try out your products. What are they called?
Cutler Nutrition.
Cutler Nutrition.
I'm gonna send you a nice little care package, and you'll give me the feedback on it.
I'll give you the feedback, and if you see, I'm gonna do the before and after, and then that's gonna be my next thumbnail. Actually, this is gonna be a video. I'm gonna say I tried Jay Cutler supplements for, 30 days or 60 days, and here's what happened.
Cool,
That'd be a cool video, dude. Well, man, it's been a lot of fun having you on the show. I personally learned a ton. I just wanted to pick your brain.
There's a lot more to learn, man. So
I'd
love to, chat it up sometime again. And, I appreciate you, like we said, it all started with a watch.
Yeah, which I don't have right now, but it's all good, man. Well, guys, if you don't follow Jay already, I don't know what you're doing, but go follow him at Jay Cutler.
Yeah, Jay
on
Cutler Instagram, yeah.
JayCutler.com, Cutler Nutrition. Really cool, man. And, we'll have to get you back on, dude.
Appreciate it so much, man.
Cool. All right, guys, if you like this episode, show Jay some love in the comments. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace. Thanks for watching The Ryan Pineda Show. If you want to work with me, head over to ryanpineda.com. You can find my courses, coaching programs, and upcoming events. We also have free resources you can download, so head over to ryanpineda.com.